Okay, Chris, I have a question for you today.
Okay.
What makes me similar to a fine wine or an Airstream?
I don't know what.
Think about it.
I don't know.
I just get better with age.
Yes, you do, baby. Grab your drink, listener.
It's The Riveted with Chris and Gina.
Gina, exciting day today.
I am so stoked about this.
Yeah, so this is really cool. I mean, again, the power of technology and just the way that you can stay connected with people nowadays, and the uniqueness of this recording studio and all that kind of stuff. We've got a really, really cool guest, somebody that the only reason we met him was because of Airstream.
Yes,
right?
it is. It is.
And we've stayed in contact, and he's graciously decided or accepted our invitation to come on. And it's your boyfriend, right,
It
Gina?
is my boyfriend. I miss my boyfriend. I do. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say for us today. But so we are so happy to introduce our friend Bryan. We met him several years ago when we first went full time. We lost contact for just a little bit, and we've recently gotten back together in chatting, and we're like, we're doing this podcast. Bryan's got to come on and talk.
Bryan is a very extinguished.
Extinguish.
Very,
we're going to extinguish Bryan today.
Bryan is a very experienced Airstreamer, and we're going to hear all about his amazing travels and stories and how he's enjoyed his trailer. And so, Bryan, without further ado, welcome to The Riveted.
We are so happy to have you.
Well, I'm happy to be here, you guys, and it's nice to chat with you again. And it's been a while, and so it's great to catch up, and love to talk about Airstreams and look forward to it.
We're going to dive into.
I have to just say, just hold on, stop. I have to just say, because no one can see me, but I am literally grinning from ear to ear. I just have this huge grin on my face because I just adore you, Bryan.
Yep.
I adore you.
You are her boyfriend.
I have told so many stories. Well, not so many stories. I've told so many people our story of meeting you and then traveling together for a little bit. So
isn't that amazing? I mean, what a good time. I mean, we had so much fun.
We're going to dive into the story and do a lot of reminiscing because the three of us had some fun for several months there, and it was a perfect example of how you meet friends meet people on the road that become friends, and the commonality is your interest in Airstream, having an Airstream, and some of the fun things we did were because of that. And so I can't wait to talk about it. But the thing that is funny and we'll say this up front and then we'll circle back to it, but like,
sure.
You know how like people that have pets and their camp and their RVers, they talk about how they're walking the dog and they're in their pajamas and they've got a bag of dog poop in their hand and they meet somebody new in the campground and they end up talking for like an hour.
In pajamas
with dog poop in their hand.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what happened with us and Bryan. I mean, he didn't have a dog, but he had a bag of garbage in his hand.
He did.
And we ended up talking for like hours the first time.
Yeah, but what was so cute about it is that he stood outside the window and talked to us for a little bit because we were sitting at the dinette. And then eventually he worked his way into the Airstream, still holding the bag of garbage and sat there for an hour.
And we just talked
fantastic.
and talked. So
yeah. We couldn't get enough. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to talking some more today. So thanks, Bryan.
So funny. And that brings back a memory, Chris. I forgot all about that, but you're right. I was still holding that trash bag.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it didn't really matter. It was like the conversation was so good that it didn't matter about the garbage. But
it must have been the shiny thing that you were living in. I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
It was reflecting off of your shiny thing right beside of us.
Yeah.
We had two shiny things.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think we would have probably connected the way we did had it not been the Airstream connection. You would have walked on down to the dumpster and done your thing, and and we probably wouldn't have started talking. But you've been an Airstream owner for a good while, but kind of share with us
Yeah.
about your kind of entry point or your backstory, kind of like where were you in life to just say, hey, I want to get an
Oh.
Airstream. And so tell us a little bit about that.
I think I started to think about Airstreams possibly back in maybe 2006, 2007, 2008. It wasn't till about 2000. When did I meet you? 2018?
19, I
19.
think. Yeah.
2019. So, I've been thinking about it a while and started to kind of take a more serious look at Airstream. Found one that I liked. It was at the time I was living in Southern California down in Orange County, and I found this Airstream for sale, and it was a couple years old. I think 1 or 2 at that point. And I thought, God, I literally, this is beautiful. I mean, it's everything I wanted. I mean, just a fantastic floor plan. 27 feet. They call it the 27 FB, and what that stands for is 27 feet and a front bedroom. And I
Yeah.
thought, this is just fantastic. I'm gonna call the guy. He goes, yeah, it's still available. Come take a look at it. It's getting a lot of attention. He said, so I wouldn't wait. So I made the drive, and it was probably, kind of hour and a half, 2 hours away from me. And anyway, got there, looked at the trailer, and thought, I'm going to buy it. So I bought the trailer. Then I had to go buy a truck to pull it with. So kind of funny, I did it backwards. I actually bought a trailer before I had a truck.
You're right, I forgot that you had just gotten that truck too.
Yeah, I just got the
Yeah, 'cause
truck
that was
because I
a good
had to have
truck.
something to pull it with. So
Mhm.
anyway, traded in my car, bought a truck, and then went and picked up the Airstream. And the fun part about it is I like my lease is up. I'm gonna basically put everything in storage that I want to keep, and I'm gonna put everything I want to take with me in the Airstream, and then I hit the road. And I did
Yeah.
that for 3 years.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you've got, is yours an international or a flying cloud? I can't remember.
I have an international, so it's a 27 FB international. So,
Yeah.
and what that really means is I've got the darker cabinets
Yep.
and a light floor, so it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right.
It is beautiful. Yeah. And
We
that
we spent a many a day sitting at his dinette looking out that back window, didn't we?
we did. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's just, that's what is really cool about all the different floor plans is like ours, the entry doors in the front of the trailer, yours is in the rear of the trailer. So like it's totally different perspective about the wraparound windows and how
It
Mhm.
is.
where you sit in the inside. And one of the first times I think that we were in a floor plan like yours in an actual camping environment, I sat
Yeah.
down and had those windows around me. I was like, oh my gosh, Gina, this is actually so much better than our floor plan. I was jealous.
Well, they're different perspectives. I mean, and the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about that trailer and that model is, if you think about it, wherever you back up, your dining room is basically a Bay Area window to the
Yeah.
world. So
Yep.
Mhm. It is.
you better be backed up to somewhere nice, otherwise,
Mhm.
And
Sure.
I've had good places and not so good places, but
Yep. So then you get it. When you were shopping for the Airstream, had you already had in your mind that you wanted to spend a few years on the road and travel, or was that an
yeah.
inspiration that came from after you decided to get the Airstream and make it your own?
Great question, Chris. I wasn't sure how long I would actually want to do it for. And I thought, I'll test it and maybe it'll be a few months. I didn't think it would be a few years, to be honest with you. I thought it would be shorter than that.
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept on going. And then we hit kind of some road bumps, as you guys are aware. This thing called COVID came along, which kind of upended my travel plans, like I did so many others, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um, So yeah, so a few years on the road, all over the West Coast. Got to meet you guys up in beautiful Grand Teton National Park.
Yes.
That's our
Which is
favorite.
still one of my favorites, right?
Mhm. Yeah, ours too.
So beautiful.
A lot of good times there. And whenever we met you there, you were doing photography, right? And like you were hanging out at that time of the year waiting on the fall colors. Am I right about that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that kind of got me kind of down the Airstream road, if you will, is photography. It's the same thing that kind of has, if I think about it in terms of perspective, the camera got me out to these places, and the Airstream was a place to stay, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, what a great thing. So,
It's a good
I
combo.
wanted I wanted great pictures. I needed to be in great places, and those places, when I was working, I could only spend 2 or 3 days there, and then you're back, right?
Yeah.
With an Airstream, you can kind of live in that area, and so you
Right.
can even watch the seasons change, as we experienced up in Grand Teton National Park.
For
Yes.
sure. Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, we have, at the beginning of our podcast, the first couple episodes, Gina and I shared our backstory. And one of the main stories we told was about being out in the Grand Tetons in 2017 for the big solar eclipse that August. And that was our first time having camped there. And so, we'd been there one time before. And
Mhm.
then we loved it so much that we decided to go back in 2019, and then that's when we met you. But
Oh,
I can't remember exactly when we met you. I could probably track back and figure it out, but
It was in
it
September.
was in early September, and the three of us ended up hanging out there for, I mean, off and on, and then we did do some traveling too. But we circled back around. We were in that area for 4 or 5 weeks,
We did.
yeah, and in
and
4 or 5 weeks in Grand Teton National Park can mean going from kind of almost a end of summer to winter, right? In a very short time frame.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
I
Well, that's
remember when we were first there, we were there in shorts, and by the
Yeah,
time
right.
we left, we were in jackets,
Yes.
head to
yeah,
toe.
Well, if you remember right, we left and came back. So what I
Yep.
was waiting for at that time
Yeah.
was I wanted to see the at where the so down in Jackson there is an elk refuge, and I wanted to see the elk come in for the winter. And so that's what I was waiting for. And, Chris might have been doing the same thing, but then you were waiting for the change of the colors and, maybe the first snowfall. So we were all kind of just hanging out there, the three of us. And we decided that, well, it looks like the weather's not going to turn yet. So let's take a quick road trip. And we followed each other and we drove up to Deadwood, South Dakota, and once we got parked and we went into the little town, we stopped by a bar, and I've not forgotten this because I have hunted for a better one all across the country. But we went into this little dive bar in Deadwood, bellied up to the bar, and ordered. Well, we asked them. We said, what is your signature drink? Like, what is it that you're famous for?" And the bartender says, "Well, it's our old fashions, of course." And
Yeah.
we all 3 looked at each other and we're like, "Okay."
smoked old fashioned.
Smoked old fashioned. So we got to pick out, and you might remember this, we had to pick out our wood, our bitters, our whiskey, um, what else? Our garnish,
Everything.
the ice, everything. And we sat there and watched her make those smoked old fashions, and they were so tasty. They were
Yeah.
so good.
Gina remembers that all the time.
Oh my gosh, I do. And of course, I got great pictures of y'all's butt on the those bar stools, those crazy
It
bar
wasn't
stools,
our butt, it was the bar stool's
but it
butt.
looked like y'all's butt. That
Yeah.
was
All right.
hilarious.
You're jumping ahead.
I know, I don't care.
You're very
But
much
anyway,
jumping.
so we did the little traveling around and
Yeah.
with each other. Gosh,
Brian's like, I don't remember any of this stuff.
he probably does.
We fast forwarded, we went all the way to Deadwood, and I was thinking about, Devil's Tower, how amazing that was.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it was
Oh, that's right. We went there first.
yeah.
I'm
And
sorry.
he got there before we
I
did.
was on the drinks.
I know that you were. Brian got there. Bryan got there before we did and
Yeah.
secured us a couple amazing
Oh,
spots at the campground right at the base of Devil's Tower,
yes. Let's keep that campground a
and
secret.
oh my gosh, it was amazing. We rolled in and it was like a spot had been reserved for us that otherwise would have been already taken, and we had two great camping spots and enjoyed a few days in that area. It was amazing.
I mean, we couldn't have gotten two better camp spots.
Absolutely not.
If you would have reserved those kind of years in advance. So it was just ideal. And beautiful weather, and just I just love that campground. In
Yeah,
fact,
it was fantastic.
I mean that whole time, like back up for a second to Grand Tetons, right? So we're at a campground in the Tetons, Grovont campground that is a first come first served campground, or at least it was back then.
Mhm.
And you basically take whatever site they have available. You don't get to choose, you don't get to make a reservation. It's like, hey, if you want it, you got to take it kind of thing. And it was a loop that was dry camping. There was no hookups. It was just a dedicated site, for you. And we ended up being beside one another. And
Mhm.
I mean, that campground's got 6, 7 loops, a few hundred sites. So like the odds of not only both of us owning Airstreams, but both of us being parked beside one another in such an epic location was just, kind of a in not in the cards. So then we enjoy that time there and hang out some, and then make this trip up to South Dakota, and then we luck into two more amazing spots, no reservation, and it was just almost like it was meant to be. That 6, 8 weeks, however long it was just like it was meant to be. Yeah.
No, it was meant to be.
I agree. I mean, I think that obviously didn't choose my spot. It got chosen for me. It was open, and I think you guys were there first. So isn't that crazy to think
It
about?
is.
You park
Absolutely.
next to somebody, out of the blue, and you end up being friends with them for years.
Yeah.
For years and years.
So that was really awesome. So all right, so let's
It's
go back to Deadwood, or go back to
yeah.
Devil's Tower. So the thing that I remember about that part too is when we were checking out to leave,
Hmm.
and we
Which place?
and we can talk more about like being there. We were leaving that campground at the base of Devil's Tower.
Okay.
We there's a road that pulls away, that kind of goes slightly uphill, and we both pulled off on the side of the road, and went and took some pictures of our
We
trailers with the Devil's Tower in the background.
yes.
And I know we still have those pictures. Do you have them, Bryan?
I do. I do. In fact, yeah, that was
Really
just kind of a
cool
great
pictures.
stretch right there. I just
Yeah.
remember, I'm thinking back to that location. I just remember all the prairie dogs out there too. Those
Oh,
were
Yeah.
yes.
Tons of prairie dogs. Yep.
Those were cute.
But
You got some good pictures of that too.
yeah.
I did.
I just thought it was cool to the perspective of both of the Airstreams parked, in a row there with the
Yeah.
Devil's Tower in the background. Really cool pictures. The one, and I took one isolated of our trailer, just ours, that we've used in a few places recently.
Oh,
It's just such a cool place to go and visit, and take some pictures from. And then we stayed there for 4 or 5 days, wasn't it?
we did. Yeah, 'cause, you remember I can't remember the road that you took us on, Brian, but
Yeah.
we went up a road for you to get sunset pictures. Do you remember?
Yeah. I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just such an iconic place, right? I mean, you're probably not a picture that's just so well recognized, but quite
Yeah.
honestly, in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
just nowhere. Um,
Oh, I
S
remember you saying that
Right.
now, Gina.
Well, I wanna talk about that for just a minute because the field that he took us to, you go up this road and then we had to walk a little ways and it was a big open field and Devil's Tower was straight in front of us. The sun was
yep.
gonna set behind it. It was just beautiful, but it was really cloudy, really, really cloudy. And people waited and they waited and, then you'd see all these photographers packing up their equipment getting ready to leave, and they're all starting to go away. And there was,
Like they
excuse me.
gave up on it. Another
Yeah,
word.
like they were giving up on getting the sunset picture because it was just too cloudy. And I think one other person hung out, some photographer. Other people were just there to kind of watch, not really take pictures. And then there was Bryan. And Bryan said, "We're just going to wait for it. We're going to wait for it." And I'm like, "Okay, we're going to wait for it. But it's really cloudy." He's like, "Nope, we're going to wait for it." And so we waited. And then we moved down the hill just a little bit. And he said, "Nope, we're going to wait right here." So we waited there and we waited. And then all of a sudden, the sun came below the clouds, and the clouds, it's like the wind just pushed them over, and the sun lit up the tower just perfectly. And Bryan started snapping away. I got out my little iPhone, I'm going to tell you, and I started snapping. I was like, he ain't got nothing on me. I'm going to snap these pictures. And I snapped and snapped away like I was somebody with that thing. You remember that? And Bryan was laughing at me, and he was all serious about getting his pictures. And then he compared it to mine, and mine was pretty, but his was amazing.
Bryan is a accomplished photographer, Gina.
He was a patient man.
You can't be throwing off on his photography with your
No,
iPhone.
I was throwing off on mine.
Yeah.
He was very patient, and we waited, and he's got some awesome pictures.
Bryan, do you have a different version of that story you'd like to share?
No. I mean, these are good memories, right? And so much fun. So yeah, some good pictures that night. I mean, beautiful landscape, just gorgeous.
Yeah.
What a cool
You were
place.
very patient. You were very patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he had a plan, and
Yeah,
he worked
he
the
knew what he
plan.
was doing.
It's fun. Well, you do. You catch an eye, and I think I got a lot of that when I would do a lot of kind of ocean pictures down in Southern California, because you begin to kind of recognize what's going to be a good sunset, what may not be. And in that particular one, the sun, or I'm sorry, the clouds were just setting up so nice. And, that beautiful backdrop of Devil's Tower. I mean, you can't be more iconic out there in the national park system. So, like so many other places, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's well known, but we just did a fun trivia night with a group of friends, and learned that was the very first national monument established. Did you know that? Devil's Tower? I didn't know that.
I may have read that on a plaque that when we were there. I don't know how I knew that, but I think I do recall that.
I mean, here's the thing: if they haven't set any national monuments up yet, and you're driving across the country, and all of a sudden this thing's just sticking up out of the ground,
right?
You probably are going to want to make that a monument.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for anyone who hasn't been there, they should go, because it is absolutely
over the top,
something to see.
Yeah,
it's just stunning, isn't it? I mean, I still am in awe about that place. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So we've got to take some time, obviously, to reminisce about our Beartooth Highway experience. But before we talk about that, I've got to share a quick little story about the three of us boondocking in this one little small national forest campground.
That was on the highway.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where it was. We'd have to go back and see, but it was west of Devil's Tower a good ways, heading towards Wyoming. And the analogy about, like, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there, do you hear it?
Yes, I saw a tree fall.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, Bryan, do you remember us? We were all sitting in your trailer with the wraparound windows in the back, and it was cold outside, and we saw a tree fall just for no reason.
You guys are bringing back so many good memories. Yeah, that was like a free campground, and I don't even know where we were.
It was like on the highway, the main east-west highway, headed that way, and I can't remember the name of the town. It was a little one stoplight town.
Yeah, we ate at a little diner there.
Yeah, but it was just one or two loops and a dry campground, but there was no storm, there wasn't really any wind. It was just a still, chilly day, and we were kind of hanging out in your camper, and we were looking outside, and all of a sudden, a big tall tree just fell,
It just
and
felt
Mhm.
yeah,
I
and
watched it just lean right over, and I was like, "The tree
yeah.
just fell."
So
I didn't hear it, though.
well, I mean,
I didn't hear
it
it.
was far enough away, I think, that we couldn't, but we saw it, and it was
but
just
I
one of those ironic
but
things.
you guys I mean, recall that, though, because then I can remember seeing signs that were warning of falling trees,
Yeah,
uh, yeah, in that campground. So we actually happened to see one fall, but, that wouldn't have been good if it was on your camper or mine.
absolutely not. No way. Yeah. I mean, it was you definitely got the better of the 2 sites that we chose. We needed one a little bigger, and it wasn't right beside of you, but yours was more up on the hill, and you had a much better view, so that's why we hung out at your place. And I just remember, I mean, it was amazing to just see that thing fall for no reason, and, 'cause there wasn't any wind, but that was just another one of those, unique things, and that was obviously, um, due to your wraparound windows and your floor plan. Just like you said earlier, backing into the site, you wanna back into some epic view, and we had a pretty amazing view out the back of your trailer, and it was because of those wraparound windows.
It was a gorgeous place. But you know what? I know why that campground was free now. I mean, it was falling trees all over the place. I
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
It was Ashland is where we were.
Ashland, Wyoming.
Ashland, Wyoming.
Right.
Okay.
Ashland. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was pretty awesome. So tell us about, I mean, we had an amazing experience on the Beartooth Highway, but I can't remember, maybe you can. Had that been on your radar map, to go and travel or and traverse, whether you were taking your trailer or not? Because I'm thinking that you brought that subject up, like, we weren't even thinking about it, but was that something that was on your mind?
It was, and how I found out about it is I kept on hearing about it. Oh, well, if you haven't been up to talk about Montana, you got to get up to the Beartooth Highway, blah blah blah. So I think after kind of that, it's like, okay, you hear it once and then you look it up and you go, wow, that's really beautiful. But yeah, I mean, pulling a 27-foot Airstream up that kind of zigzag is a little bit of a white knuckler. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I pulled my Airstream up Big Sur. I've
Yeah.
gone
Mhm.
to mountains of Colorado, up in the Sierras, um, yeah, along the coast of Oregon, up into some places that you would kind of, scratch your head at. So I've pulled that thing to a lot of different places, and I thought, now I just need to convince Chris and Gina to do this little adventure with me. And so, how do I make that happen?
You just ask.
One of the things with Airstream is one of the things I learned in having an Airstream is you can get into anywhere. The question that you need to really answer is how you going to get out, right?
Yep.
Right.
Beartooth Highway is there's no easy way out once you start that road, right?
Yeah. It's like once you commit, you're committed.
You're
There's no
committed.
Yep. And we could have
We
turned around.
probably should have been committed.
Well, I mean, there was places that once we got close to the summit, we could have turned around, but by that
Mhm.
time, it's like, why bother, you know?
Well, but you can only turn around if there's not a dozen cars in your
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
But yeah, that was,
Well, and another thing, there was snow up there, remember?
still was some, yeah.
Yeah, it was windy and cold and snowy.
The I don't know about you, Brian, but for us, that one's on our list to check off as one of those epic
Yes.
experiences for sure. And we traveled it together the same day, and you were in front of us, and the perspective that we had, I think, was the better perspective because we not only were enjoying the drive, the view,
The
the
switchbacks.
switchbacks, like, we were enjoying all that. After we kind of were in there driving it for a little bit, we kind of settled in and some of my nerves kind of went away a little bit. I still was very focused on what we were doing, but the perspective of the landscape was amazing. But I will say, I we had a better perspective because we could see you in front of us, and that was just a beautiful sight to see your Airstream making those switchbacks, making those turns, lefts, rights, ups, downs, and just knowing we were traveling it together, our view I think was awesome, and we captured some great footage, video and photos, and that was just a wonderful day. I think it was one of my best experiences as a traveling
I
Airstream
agree.
owner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hope you did too.
So, yeah, I mean, what a great place. I was just looking. We started in Red Lodge that day, if I recall correctly.
It was,
What
yeah,
was?
Red Lodge, Montana. And I just looked this up, 68-mile byway. I didn't realize it was that far. But
yeah,
then we ended up camping at the top there. I mean,
yep,
how lucky was that?
That was very lucky because I think we closed them down, didn't we? I think we were the last ones there, and they were
We
shutting down the
were.
campground.
yeah,
I
I
Mhm.
think
think,
so.
we got two gorgeous spots at the top of Beartooth Mountain. I mean, wow,
Yeah.
incredible.
It was like everywhere we did decide to stop and pull over just to take a break was the view was amazing. And we got up, to the summit, and I forget what the elevation is. It's 13 something, I think.
It's
Um
actually, I just looked it up, Chris. It is 10,947 feet at the peak.
yeah, and it was just it was a heck of a day. I mean, we set out that morning and drove it all through the middle of the day, and the views were amazing. Here's the thing: it's a challenging road. Listener, if you're wondering whether to do it or not, I mean, it's a challenging road. It's got a lot of elevation change, a lot of switchbacks, but it's a road that's been designed for traversing a mountain pass, and it's very doable towing a trailer.
Just go slow.
Yeah, I mean, I
Just don't
think
be in a hurry.
yeah, and you don't wanna go fast because you wanna enjoy the view and enjoy the experience, but
Mhm.
for the 2 of us to travel together and you were in front of us, the stops we made, the weather was good, it couldn't have been a better,
Well, we did a
uh
couple of different things there because at one point we pulled over and flew the drone.
yeah, did
We
Yeah.
that.
did. I think
Mhm.
I almost lost my drone that day. I
You
kind of
did. I was really
no,
nervous about that.
Yep,
I got it back. It came back, but got us some
Yeah.
great pictures. But what
yeah,
an incredible place. I mean,
Yeah.
just
it was
gorgeous.
awesome.
I mean, if you're thinking about doing it, do it. Go slow, enjoy it. I think it's one of those lifetime experiences, and to get to stay at the top was just a super good treat. And then going back down the other side is just absolutely stunningly gorgeous
Yep,
back into the backside of Yellowstone.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that was,
Before we go there, I wanna mention that I looked up to see when it was we did the highway and or the day that we went up to the summit
yeah.
and stuff, September 14th,
Oh,
2019.
really?
Mhm.
How
Wow.
about that? September
Yeah.
14th.
Yeah.
That's a very special
That's a
day
special day for
in the
us.
history of Gina and I, but we'll
Yes.
save that for another
Another
conversation.
episode.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't realize. I thought it
Yeah.
was actually later in September.
No, and I saw pictures of us, and we have on scarves and gloves, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
wind
It was
was
cold.
blowing big time up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing that I remember, Brian, about, coming off the backside of that mountain was it was the road was a little more narrow than going up. There was less switchbacks, but you were obviously going we were going down. But even with all that, it didn't feel like we were going down a mountain grade that was not manageable. You feel the same?
I do. I thought the backside of that mountain was a little bit easier, and I'm not sure why. It very well may not be, and maybe it was just less switchbacks.
Yeah. I don't remember us doing a whole lot of stopping like we did going up. I mean,
No, there's not as much to do, and we also commented after coming down, the 3 of us commented about we're glad we did it in the direction that we did because it would have been a slow, haul up,
oh yeah, yeah,
um, a long haul up
Yeah.
distance-wise,
yeah.
um, where when we came coming from the Wyoming no,
The Red Lodge
the
side.
Red Lodge side, that we, like, literally went straight up and then we were,
Yeah,
doing
because of the
switchbacks.
switchbacks.
Right, yeah, it
And
was better.
as I'm thinking about it and you guys are talking, I'm also remembering that because we spent a few days up there, we actually took
Mhm,
off a couple days and went and explored down the
mm,
other side of the mountain. So as we were leaving, we didn't need to really explore. We kind of knew what we were looking at, right? So
Oh,
right,
that's true. Yeah,
we needed to just get off that mountain in one piece so
yeah.
that we
yes,
could make our way through. Hopefully, I think we were trying to spend some time in Yellowstone or a night or two, and
mhm,
I remember us leaving Cook City and heading into Yellowstone, and we got into we got into the park and started heading deep into the park, and we're just a few miles in, and traffic comes to a slowdown, and the in our lane, but heading the opposite direction, was one bison just walking up the road. You remember that? And it was almost like it was a welcome committee. It
yeah.
mhm.
was like he was like, "Hey, welcome to Yellowstone.
It's
Get out of
coming
the
right
way."
towards us, yeah,
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's funny, right? Because I can remember that, and I remember
mhm,
how close it was to me, and I'm thinking, "Wow, just do not take a swing at a shiny
yeah,
thing," right?
right, like, don't turn your head, just keep looking forward.
yeah.
Keep
Yeah,
going, keep going.
That was my impression, was like he was right there as like the welcome committee of everybody coming in from that
yeah.
Yeah,
entrance, but
it's
So
not a good time to be shiny, right?
no.
right. Well, and everything that we're sitting here talking about right now is all possible because of the Airstream, but this is a long way of asking you a question, but bear with me for just a minute. So people always pick on Chris and I because we're not planners. We just go when we wanna go, we stop when we wanna stop, and we'll detour and go right when we decide. If that's
Yeah.
not right, we'll go left. And so because we're that way, meeting you in Jackson Hole and deciding to take this little trip up for a week or 2 while we're waiting on the weather to change, there, that was okay because we didn't have
Reservations.
reservations that
Yeah.
we had to run to, and we didn't have those plans that, "Oh, we can't go do that because 'cause we're already going to do this," and that's a long way for me to ask you this, but
Yeah.
are you a planner? Like, I know that you didn't at that point, you
Yeah.
kinda rolled with the flow with us, but do you normally plan out your trips based on your photography, or what do you do?
It depends where I wanna go, right? Like, obviously, I stayed up in Yellowstone, and so I had to have a reservation for that. But there are other places that you can go where you don't need a reservation. Unfortunately, those are becoming fewer and fewer as more, places like Grovant, up in Grand Teton National Parks, becomes less of first come, first serve and more reservations, which is what's happening out there, unfortunately.
If you or us or either one of us would have had to rush across the Beartooth in one day's drive in order to get to a reservation that we had in Yellowstone, because if we would have not arrived, we would have lost it. That would have been a totally different experience than how we
Right.
did it.
We had the freedom to just relax and
Yeah.
enjoy the moment,
And I
yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
know sometimes you can manage your reservations and manage your travel days and all that kind of stuff, but just the experience that the three of us had traversing the Beartooth without the stressors of having to get from point A to point B was such an amazing road trip.
It is. And I think, to the point of kind of having the spontaneity, but I will tell you, when I was on the road, the weather was my barometer as well, because you have to be careful in terms of kind of where you could possibly end up and not being in a bad situation. I go back to kind of our time in South Dakota. If you recall, we kind of had to hightail it out of there because there was a bad situation coming in.
Yeah,
Yes.
big storm front coming.
Storm front, and if I recall, hail, which in
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
hail and airstreams are not a good mix.
Mm-mm.
Hell no.
Yes.
In
Well, and
fact,
we talked about it. We talked about going towards Colorado, but we looked at the weather and we're like, no, that's where it's going. So,
Yep.
and that I think that's when you brought up the Beartooth, Brian. I think you said, well, why don't
yeah,
we just go north? And
Yeah. Well, I think the way I remember that, and this is kind of a smart kind of timing thing of it was, they were talking about this huge storm front stacking up, and it was going to come through in the late afternoon or early evening because of the way the heating was or whatever. So we just punched through, headed west, and got past the storm front earlier in the day before it built up, and that was the way we overcame it. Was we we got west of it before it became a huge afternoon thunderstorm front.
but go ahead, Brian. I think you were going to say
I
something
was
else.
just going to say, I think we caught the tail end of that is how we ended up in Ashland, right? And so it was kind of stormy, kind of rainy, but it certainly wasn't hail, which I think, I can remember that one Airstream that was in Gravant, and it was brand new.
Yep.
Beautiful
Yeah.
model, just like
That was,
mine, New Mexico plates.
Hmm.
And they had gone through a hailstorm in Colorado, and, unfortunately, they
yeah.
had dimples all throughout,
Everywhere.
a
I
That's
brand new
remember that. Yeah.
that just makes you
That
feel
was
sick
sad.
when you see that. Yeah.
Red Shaw. That was the name of that Red Shaw.
Red Shaw Campground,
Yes, that's the one
Ashland,
in
Wyoming.
Ashland.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. You
It
looked it
just
up.
came to me. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we've been chit chatting here for almost 50 minutes. I mean, time flies when you're having fun. Let's talk about one last thing, and then we'll let you go. Outside of the fun things that we just talked about,
Yeah.
trips that we enjoyed, the three of us and stuff. Have you got anything on the front of your mind that you did after we kind of parted ways and went our two different directions? That was just like one of those experiences that was, I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I had the Airstream with me. This was just one of those amazing life kind of things. Did you have anything else that we may not be aware of?
Chris, I obviously went on to, let's see, that was 2019, and then I traveled for a total of 3 years. So the coast of California into Oregon, all the way up to Washington, around. And so many great places. I mean, I will tell you the time that you and I traveled together, you and I and Gina, was just absolutely fantastic. And it's hard to beat.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's
Well,
I think
wow, that's
a
awesome.
lot of that's got to do with us,
Is
Gina.
it? It's all
Yeah,
us.
it
It's all about us.
doesn't have
I
anything
think
to do with
so.
Devil's Tower. Nothing about none of these epic locations. It's all you and me.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think Brian liked the cooking, y'all cooking and me cleaning. I think that was
That worked out
I
pretty
think
good.
he enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Gina,
Good.
and your de-icing skills too. I remember, she was so
Oh,
trying to help me de-ice my refrigerator, which is another thing you need to think about.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
We are so fortunate to have met you
So
and
thankful.
enjoyed the travels that we had. It was just one of those kind of experiences that you had no idea was coming, but once you were in it, it was a blast and something that we'll remember. And hope you feel the same way. We we'd love to get back and visit with you again sometime next time we're out in the western half of the U.S. and maybe we can. Uh, we've never been to the Cascades or anything like that.
Oh,
You,
that'd be fun. We could meet
yeah,
up there and
you've been all through that area, right?
mhm.
I have been, and the Cascades are another amazing national park that we have. just so many. Obviously, if you think of California alone, I think we have 9 national parks here in California. As you make your
Yeah.
way up through the coast of California, up into the big redwoods, and then up into through up to Oregon, just some amazing, amazing places.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Lots to see out there for sure.
We'll have to do that. So before we leave, or before we cut it short here, Bryan, you take some amazing photos. We have followed you and watched your travels through your photos, and they're just so beautiful. Would you like to share with the people listening how they can look at your photos as well and follow you on your socials?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will share that with you. And I'll give you the link, Gina, and you can put it out on the podcast.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds
That'd be
perfect.
cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can look back through the catalog of the stuff you've put out there, and you can tell that you're as you've traveled, you've captured pictures, and the timestamps of some of those pictures. It just you can see your travels through your
Hmm.
photos, which is really cool. Yep.
Hmm.
Isn't that
Um,
amazing? I mean, social media is kind of amazing like that. I mean, if you really think about it,
yeah.
you can go back and kind of look at pictures. And I was just kind of thumbing through some stuff as you were talking and just kind of recalling some of the places that we traveled together, and what a fun
Right.
time it was.
Fun times.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so very much for coming on the podcast, sharing your thoughts. I know you're a
Your adventures.
adventures. You're a
Yeah.
passionate
Hmm.
Airstream owner and experienced, and we were so glad to travel with you, and can't wait
To do it again,
to
I
do it
hope.
again and see you down the road for sure.
Yeah,
Well, same to you guys, and always great catching up. And let's do it again.
absolutely.
All right, thanks so much,
So
Bryan.
thanks for joining us, Bryan.
You bet.
All
Yeah.
right.
Well, everyone, Bryan isn't he wonderful? He's just wonderful,
Yeah,
Chris.
he's a
He's
cool guy.
wonderful.
Okay,
No,
Gina, he's
he's really
wonderful.
wonderful.
Okay, he's
He's
wonderful.
wonderful. Say wonderful.
Bryan is wonderful.
See? That was
Bryan,
easy, wasn't it?
Bryan, your boyfriend is wonderful.
He's wonderful. Yeah. I might dream about you tonight,
Oh,
Bryan.
good Lord, have mercy. All right, we got to go, everybody.
Oh, we love you. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you down the road.
Whew.